Story 1. I was parentified as a child. I have already raised many children. My time is for me now, and I am reparenting myself. Story 2. Because the desire is simply not there, and I cannot think of anything more selfish than having them anyway. Children deserve to be wanted. Story 3. I love my free time more than anything. I can do whatever I want when I'm not working. I read, create videos about tabletop games, play video games, and spend time with my wife and dogs, as well as with friends. Story 4. I value my space and freedom. I prefer being independent. The world is challenging. Pregnancy and giving birth can be terrifying. My anxiety makes me concerned about being a good parent. Story 5. I really wanted children. When I was married, we agreed to start trying. I got pregnant, but he was no longer excited. He seemed angry and annoyed about everything regarding my pregnancy, that I was sensitive to smells and couldn't handle raw meat, and that I needed help with the litter boxes. I ended up having a miscarriage, and even that was a hassle with him. He made me wait hours to take me to the hospital, and then, when we were there, he watched videos on his phone. The only thing he said to me was that I was making him miss a party with his friends. This was obviously one of the final nails in the coffin for our marriage, and we divorced a few months later. It also made me reevaluate whether having children and potentially being tied to a man who could become so casually cruel was worth the chance at being a mother. I've seen many women end up with men who became entirely different people after children were involved. I don't want to deal with what might happen if things don't go well. I have enough nieces and nephews to interact with that. I don't feel like I'm missing out on much by not having one of my own. If I met someone who truly wanted children and I felt they would be a great and active father, I would consider it again. But if that doesn't happen, I'll keep my dog companions. Story 6. I never saw mothers smiling when I was growing up in Ireland in the 1980s without birth control. They felt trapped. I decided at the age of 7 that I would never be trapped. Story 7. I don't have the emotional capacity to care for a child. They deserve to be loved, not simply tolerated. My bloodline does not need to grow further. Story 8. I was raised by a mother with borderline personality disorder and a physically abusive alcoholic father in an extended family with extreme generational trauma. I decided at 12 that all of that would end with me. At 50, I feel exactly the same way. Story 9. Freedom. I simply cannot imagine giving up my entire life and a significant amount of money to babysit and raise children. I work 40 to 50 hours a week, but I still manage to go fishing, mountain biking, surfing, kayaking, and gaming after work every day. Almost every weekend, I travel for getaways. I get to do what I want, where I want, and how I want. I can take vacations to my desired destinations. For some people, having children is wonderful and they love it. However, it would absolutely disrupt my lifestyle and what I live for. I haven't wanted children since I was a teenager, and I am almost 30 now. My decision is not changing. Story 10. They require a lot of effort. I was not raised well and do not believe I would improve enough to be a good parent. My health is not the best, and having a small child in the house would not help the situation. I enjoy relaxing and do not want to sacrifice that for a decade or two. Story 11. My wife does not want to go through the physical experience of pregnancy and childbirth, which I can respect. I have never felt a strong desire to have children. I believe that if you are going to have children, you should truly want them. Story 12. Not having children is the default for me. I have no desire to have kids as I see no reason for it, so I choose not to. I think a more interesting question would be to ask people who have children why they made that choice. There seems to be a double standard, though. It's acceptable for people to ask me, why not? When they find out I don't have children, but it feels taboo to ask them why. When I discover they do. Story 13. The world is becoming a worse place. Pollution, global warming, conflict, increasing hate, and intolerance are significant issues. I grew up in the 1980s and 1990s, which was a great era. There is no way I could ever provide children the same happiness, joy, and bright future that I experienced. Story 14. My peace is more important than bringing a child into such a broken world where they would struggle, regardless of my situation in life. Story 15. I do not want a difficult life. Pregnancy scares me, children are costly, and I am uncertain if I have the patience to be a good parent while also leading a fulfilling life of my own. I appreciate the freedom of being able to make my own choices without having to think about children. Additionally, I do not want to bring children into this world as I am unsure of the kind of life they would have if I did. Story 16. I enjoy living a peaceful life, being able to save my money, time, and energy. Having a child seems like a nightmare. Every young parent I know is very unhappy. Story 17. It is a trap. When I observe people with children, including my friends and my mother, I see nothing enticing enough to make me want to have them. All I see is misery and confinement. Story 18. We don't need reasons. Want is a subjective word. Any reason a person has for not wanting children is valid. Story 19. Children can be challenging. While it is not their fault, they can bring a significant financial burden and often change parents' identities, particularly affecting primary caregivers. The idea of having children as a way to ensure care in old age is not a compelling enough argument for many. While much is discussed about the reasons people choose not to have children, it is also important to consider the reasons some do. Children can symbolize indulgence and are often brought into the world without careful timing or planning. Story 20. I am terrified and repulsed by pregnancy and labor. I always knew women could feel the fetus kick, but when I found out you can actually see the foot or hand, I get queasy thinking about it. I feel bitter about my body being made exclusively for that purpose, so it's also a protest against the universe. I could die in the process of my body doing what it is built for, and that doesn't sit right with me. This is on top of the world going to chaos, as well as my mental health already struggling. Depression runs in my family, and so do failing joints and arthritis. These are not good reasons for me to have children. I am too selfish to adopt as well. It is just a hard no all around. Story 21. Being a parent seems miserable to me. I have never seen a couple with children and thought they seemed genuinely happy. Story 22. I honestly do not like children and have had no interest in my nephews' lives, which is fortunate since they live on the other side of the world. My wife and I left it too late to have children even if we wanted to. We have 3 dogs who are our children, and that is enough for me. Story 23. Children can be loud, sticky, expensive, and annoying. Many parents I have met seem tired and overwhelmed most of the time. I believe a more important question is why anyone would choose to have children. Story 24. There is a lot of sadness in the world. I recently lost my mother and my cherished dog. The pain is unbearable. Why bring a child into this world knowing they will one day experience such sadness? It feels selfish to have a child knowing they will suffer. Story 25. If it's not an enthusiastic yes, it's a no. I simply don't want to be a parent. The world is scary even for me. I can't imagine the stress and worry of having a child. I also have a problem with annoying noises. They make me see red. Story 26. I am lying in bed on a Sunday morning at 10:24, reading Reddit, and I do not have to be anywhere right now. Story 27. Children can trigger my autism. The idea of someone needing me constantly and not being able to take a break is overwhelming. Crying, screaming, and being energetic all the time can also be bothersome. I occasionally babysit my 2 nieces, ages 5 and 7, but I can only manage a couple of hours before feeling a meltdown approaching. I can barely take care of myself, and I do not want the added responsibility of caring for someone else. Story 28. Honestly, I don't want to lose my identity by being someone's mom. I know people say you just have to not let it happen, but that's very hard since people often have to change their lifestyles to accommodate their children. There are plenty of other reasons, but being called underserved mom is not something I want for myself. I also don't trust men to stay in the child's life. I literally do not know one father who has primary custody, and it is rare that I come across parents who are still together. I just refuse. Additionally, I am concerned about what pregnancy will do to my body. There are too many reasons, and the list goes on and on. Story 29. The overwhelming and costly burden of stress and responsibility on top of an already challenging life is unappealing. I also cannot understand how to raise a child in our current environment, where everything in society seems to be working against them and is getting worse each day. Story 30. The main reason is that I never wanted children. The reasons for this include a lack of interest in the parental lifestyle, the high costs associated with raising a child, and my belief that the world is becoming increasingly difficult. Existence is challenging, and I do not want to be responsible for bringing another person into this world, especially if they might struggle with health issues or poverty. Story 31. There is nothing appealing about having children. If someone says they don't want kids, accept it and move on. Story 32. Children can be quite challenging. They require financial resources, time, and can be unpredictable. They may engage in behaviors that disrupt your life, such as causing damage to your property or attracting unwanted attention from authorities. You need to provide for their basic needs, including food and clothing, while managing their sometimes difficult behavior. If you wish to sacrifice your peace and quiet, consider having children. If you are prepared for potential difficulties in their independence and financial responsibility, be ready to welcome children into your life. If you're looking for constant chaos, having children may be the path for you. Story 33. Many choose not to have children due to personal values, lifestyle choices, or concerns about finances, the environment, or the future. It is a personal decision, and all reasons are valid. Story 34. I cannot afford to provide them with a good life. I wouldn't be able to pay for extracurricular activities or a quality education. I enjoy my free time. I appreciate silence and sleeping in. I prefer to spend my money on my own needs. I can barely take care of myself. Call me selfish. Maybe I am. However, I recognize this before having a child and subjecting them to a poor quality of life. Story 35. Since the day my son was born, I live in constant fear, knowing that no matter what I do to provide for and raise him to be a good person, there is always a chance of tragedy, debilitating injury, addiction, hunger, disease, prison, suicidal depression, or that he may commit a life-changing mistake or grow into a bad person. All of these odds are stacked against the hope of him becoming a happy, successful, and healthy individual. If he were to go before me, I wouldn't be able to cope with the loss. I have already made a silent pact with myself that if he goes, I go with him. It is incredibly overwhelming, but I try to make peace with this reality every day, facing the odds against us and doing everything I can to fight them. I have no regrets, and I love my son more than life itself. For all these reasons, I can understand why someone would be reluctant to commit to the most important and terrifying job there is, being a parent. Story 36. I understand my fantasies will not become reality. I don't want to become resentful over the negative aspects of having a child. A high-risk pregnancy could increase the likelihood of miscarriage, and I do not wish to face a preventable death in today's political environment. I have genetic health issues that I would not want to pass on to others, as well as mental health issues stemming from generational trauma that I would not want to share. I grew up in rural poverty and want to feel comfortable financially, as raising children is expensive. I am still in college and plan to pursue several more degrees. I want to travel freely, enjoy my own space, and be able to engage in spontaneous activities without the worry of someone being dependent on me. Story 37. I'm not completely against having children, but for many years I've been in the maybe not camp. My reasons are as follows. I know too much about childbirth. I have needed to educate myself to calm my nerves and prepare. So during my contemplation about whether to have children, I read both positive and negative stories. Almost every birth has some complications. Normal issues can include minor things like incontinence or tearing. More severe complications might involve the baby getting stuck, leading to an emergency cesarean where the mother feels every incision, as happened to a family member. In extreme cases, women can suffer severe tears, resulting in significant physical trauma. Additionally, it's important to note that up to half of women experience incontinence after giving birth, sometimes years later. You can have a textbook perfect pregnancy, and then something can go wrong, resulting in a baby who suffers brain deprivation due to lack of oxygen. Such children may require round-the-clock support, unable to eat, talk, walk, or even recognize loved ones. While they may not need life support machines, they will never achieve independence and remain at a newborn cognitive level. I believe that one should feel a natural urge to have a child. I have never experienced that feeling. I don't find babies ugly, and I enjoy being around kids. They don't annoy me. However, I have never felt a strong desire to have a child. I know what it feels like to covet an object like a dog or a cat, so why don't I feel the same about having a child, which is arguably one of the biggest decisions one can make. Story 38. Climate change is severe and worsening. I cannot imagine bringing a child into a world without hope for the future. Story 39. I wanted to have children before I began working at a resort. Now I see angry, bitter parents who dislike each other and their screaming children, unable to enjoy themselves even on vacation. As I am now, I'm free to travel, buy expensive clothes, and decorate as I wish. When I'm in a relationship, I appreciate both romance and alone time. Having a child doesn't align with my priorities. Story 40. Also, no is a complete answer. There's something about not wanting children that really bothers people. Story 41. Honestly, I don't want to contribute to humanity. There are too many of us already, and our planet can't handle it. Story 42. I've never understood the appeal of children. I don't find them fun, cute, funny, or interesting at all. Maybe I'm missing something. If I see someone with a baby, I walk by without a second glance. However, if someone has a puppy or a kitten, I become incredibly enthusiastic. I guess I'm just more suited to be a pet parent. We're in our mid to late 40s and have never regretted not having kids. Story 43. I have better things to do with my time. It holds no appeal or interest for me. You might as well ask why I don't collect stamps or play hockey. Story 44. As an autistic girl, I don't think I would be able to handle the responsibilities that come with having children. It would be overwhelming for me. Story 45. History has shown us that no matter how much love, attention, and effort you invest in your child, they can still turn out negatively. Individuals who commit heinous crimes, exploit others, or evade taxes can emerge from any background. I refuse to be the person from whom one of those individuals originates. If I were, I would not want to be seen on television supporting such a deplorable human being. Moreover, if I wanted to work with children, I would become a school teacher rather than having children solely due to societal pressure. Story 46. The maternal instinct is just not present for me. Although I'm good with friends, kids, and family, I feel too selfish to have my own, so I have a million dogs instead. Story 47. Each to their own, right? You shouldn't have to explain why or why not you want children. People are different. They come from diverse environments and circumstances. I believe it generally does not affect the kind of person you are. Story 48. I have severe attention deficit disorder inherited from my mother's side. My sister has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and passed it along to her sons, so I do not want to risk passing it on as well. Furthermore, considering how challenging the world is now, I have no intention of bringing children into this situation. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.